Hello and welcome to the University of Michigan campus here in Flint. So we're going to talk today about the digital environment and the free market, friends or foes. We're here today with Professor Sai, as he likes to be called, and my name is Trisha Kay. So this is part of a series of interviews regarding the digital market environment and its societal implications. The name that I embody is Trisha Kay Holton, born and raised in the quaint and charming and humble town of Ionia, Michigan. My travels have extended my journey through most of the 50 states and 24 countries globally. I'm a millennial marketing expert with insight on the digital atmosphere in the business realm. So, University of Michigan is the third college that I have attended so far, with interest arising from Ivy League schools, such as Cornell and Columbia. Due to my ambitious work ethic, I have managed to do this as a first-generation college student with the deeply appreciated help of commendable scholarships. Thank you to Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society, Pell Grant, Ronald E. Randall Foundation, and more. My focus is on marketing, management, and business relations. The time that I've spent in the digital arena has granted me an expanded audience and the viral badge that has actually translated to achievements such as money, opportunity, or social connections. Despite my success in this domain as an influencer, with about amassed 75,000 followers through about 10 platforms over time, I observed several pitfalls with this market environment. So we wanted to deliberate with Professor Sai, about whether this current digital environment truly embodies the concept of a free market. So we're going to start out. As an industry leader in the sector of digital marketing, your employer, U of M, has remained vigilant in the emergence of artificial intelligence. So to connect society, technology, and the future in a cultivated and meaningful way. My understanding is that you've worked with this academic institution since 2008. So in this time, what distinct ways have you watched this advanced culture alter our combined reality? Are there some heinous aspects or pleasantries, and any extreme terms you'd use to describe the surreal?
Okay, to answer that question as succinctly as possible, my digital marketing class for the MBA students started in 2009, and we were doing projects for local companies as classroom exercises. So it's been a pretty dynamic journey because you could literally not have a textbook. The content had to change year to year. There's a lot the digital environment, particularly mobile connectivity, has done for groups and communities globally who did not have access to traditional infrastructure, and to those groups who are largely in numbers spread across the world, that to them it reduced information asymmetries. However, the above has been true during a state of limerence between these tech corporations and users, when consumers were engaging actively with new applications, accessing new information offered by new entrants. This is when the old guard was changing, and access appeared more democratic, and it felt like the rebellion had succeeded. So the pervasive availability of these mobile devices led to the dominance of search and social media, as you will see in the graph that I've presented. And it's gradually took over advertising revenues in 2016 from TV and print newspapers, or it also made them micro-sensationalism dependent. So content distributors overtaking the ad revenues from content producers marked a severe departure from journalistic ethics and a decline in content integrity. So these effects have varied across countries. The access to the market increased for countries with low infrastructure and fewer number of devices per capita, but the effects were different for United States. The information overload reduced conscious access and deliberate choice making. For the first time in 100 years, we saw a drop in IQ. Personalization increased loneliness. We are customizing experiences, no longer sharing experiences. And the dependence on devices is at an all-time high.
Wow. Yeah, I went over some of that. It was astonishing. I did not know that prior. If the above regressive trends are prevalent in this current digital realm, How are companies creating, maintaining, satisfying, and exciting their target audiences in this Western world we now know? Can you share any statistics?
Yeah, I mean, it's a broad question, but let me point to one simple metric. If you look at the expanding number of devices per capita, the visible internet, it captures more volume of attention. And this is visible in the graph where you see that the United States, which is a part of North America, has around 13.5 devices per capita compared to Africa, which has maybe 1.3 or 1.5. So it's almost 10 times. And once this population is imprisoned by the screen, it is also leading to falling quality of attention and learning. And this has problematic implications for brands, advertisers, and educators.
Yeah, that's evolution. So, is this falling attention because of the constant fads and variety seeking?
Technically, recall and recognition of memory, carryover memories, awareness, they don't improve with clutter. The attention economy demonstrates that voluntary attention and advertising creativity demonstrate much higher effectiveness than forced exposure.
Interesting. So, forced exposure, you say. Well, isn't the digital environment helping these small actors and influencers create their free market and connect with their customer fan base?
Yes, maybe in countries where the
speech, maybe?
sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
So, maybe in countries where the device penetration per capita and per capita income is lower and the state of limerence is extending. Within the US, the Herfindahl-Hirschman index is increasing across most industries. 75% of the industries are becoming more concentrated with fewer large players. And question is, when does this increasing concentration signal an abuse of dominance or anti-competitive conduct? So if you look at the graph of big tech and these platforms, their share of digital advertising, between 2008 and 2024, it has gone from 30% to almost 65%, more than doubled in share. As far as free expression and speech go, the US university campuses are facing increasing sanctions on faculty as the internet environment has proliferated. So between 2000 and 2022, you can see that the number of sanctions has skyrocketed. So yeah, that's the response to how much freedom the market is creating. We are basically concentrating the market rather than setting it free.
Interesting. So, how can you describe the development of new relationships, professional connections, meaningful opportunities, and worldwide notoriety gained through this medium of social platforms and digital marketing that may not otherwise be achieved in your current environment?
So that is, it's truly paradoxical in nature. Technically, the internet is not a free speech environment, it's a sponsored speech environment. Hence, the significance of advertising. And the thing is, when two of us speak face-to-face inside a room with no recording device, and there is no device manufacturer, wireless carrier, platform, brand, helping relay my voice and my words to you, that is technically a free exchange. However, when these 5 entities become instrumental in helping two parties reach each other, they can select, occasionally place out of context, and potentially distort the content of our communication to help recover the cost of carriage and maximize profits in the process. So we technically sacrifice our autonomy for reach and celebrityhood. And what are our alternatives? So the first alternative, if you think about not allowing intermediaries to filter messages or with algorithms, the sponsorship may not be profitable because that will lead to an end of reach, or unfiltered data will no longer make sense to the end users. Second, if we empower the government to regulate the content of speech, that turns into censorship. And the free market is restricted. Third, if we leave it to self-regulation by the firms or industries, file lawsuits, there are no guarantees whether or when it will work by. In the meantime, the damage is already done. A mother recently expressed her concerns about her children's addiction to mobile apps like an overflowing sink. By the time she cleans up, more damage is inflicted beyond her control. So, there.
Yeah, free entities, right? So what happens if, in the interest of preserving a free market, we choose not to intervene?
So take a look at this picture. This is a panopticon. In the absence of any intervention whatsoever, the market will head towards a panopticon. The platforms, agents of the free market, if they start sharing user data, will become an agglomerate that knows everything about everybody. The more stringently a government tries to regulate them, the more they will align to fit the government's requirements. And that is going to blur the lines between the state and private actors. So that's a consequence of potentially not doing anything.
Yes, many blurred lines on professional and personal levels. So, what is the way forward?
So something interesting that came to my mind was I was watching an inauguration of the Ram Temple in India. The Prime Minister Narendra Modi fasted for 11 days going off solid food. Now, what's interesting is in an age of material extravagance, historical peak of instant gratifications and falling attention spans, there seems to exist this parallel universe which stands for exercising restraint on our cravings. And this call for restraint is appealing to large populations. So my question is, if one can live without solid food for 11 days, is it reasonable to ask if we can live without the internet for 11 hours?
Right. So I agree people need to go inward, but how will the digital detox affect this free market?
So there are two interconnected parts. One is the affected users who are unable to cope with the information overload, so demonstrating some dysfunctionality in their ability to learn new information, more so for younger users who are not in a safe environment that's supportive enough to nurture the development of their mind. Two is the brands and advertisers who are sitting on a bubble of make-believe engagement, some of which it is click fraud, and some is empty stares at the screen counting for impressions. Even if these empty stares turn into clicks in the short run, awareness and long-run effects are completely question marks.
I almost want to tie bubble in the title because of some of the images and data you provided and how you said the word bubble. But anyways, I'm not convinced. These companies hire experts with deep analytic skills to ensure that they are utilizing their investments. How can they be missing this?
They are not missing it. They are not completely missing this. There are monitoring efforts. So a review of invalid click traffic, IVT, for Q4 in 2023, and you will see this picture from Pixelit, shows around 34% desktop and 21% mobile web traffic is invalid. Majority of these invalid clicks are being generated not by people like you and me, but by data centers and click farms. So the short-term beneficiaries of these bubbles are small-time actors, obviously, but there are also the tech platforms who have exclusive access to the first-party databases which can validate the effectiveness of these advertisements, under privacy restrictions, of course. Now, why is it difficult to challenge this? First, advertising attribution is complex. And second, it's difficult for the brands to refute the analytics presented to them by the platforms by virtue of their sheer clout. So once you visualize 5 platforms control the eyeballs of 2 billion clients, of 5 million brands, even if you're a top 500 brand, you are powerless in front of these platforms. So you don't have the negotiating power.
Yeah. So if these platforms are so Goliath to be challenged by market actors, brands, advertisers, then they're too large to be regulated by the government. So who do they answer to?
You and me. When you and I refuse to give them pervasive access into our brains 24 hours a day, we reduce the blank stares, the dependencies we demonstrate on these platforms. Reducing the dependency ends up not only creating some social well-being, but it also improves the quality of attention we provide to these brands and these advertisements. That improves brand awareness metrics, it improves click-through rates, and the authenticity of our responses. So the answer is more qualitative than quantitative.
Yes, you definitely do that. So theoretically, that sounds reasonable, but would users be able to survive a digital detox given their state of device dependence?
So yeah, I think that's a rhetorical question, but there will be short-term consequences. There will be mood swings among users doing the digital detox, like everything's fallen apart. Advertisers will panic. Yep, the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
So advertisers will panic, maybe so will brands and influencers due to sudden decline in impressions.
Oh
There you go.
no, just kidding.
And possibly it will lead to an effect on clicks, purchases, economic impacts, but in the long run, as the quality of attention improves, conversion rates will rise, and most importantly, arousal and excitement will improve. Hopefully, consumers will desire more creative ads and novel offerings out of their zombified stupor. So, question is, how can this be made practical? One of my experiences growing up in a population where fasting was a norm was when certain foods were restricted. Firstly, substitutes were planned in advance, and it was turned into celebration of sorts by making them into social events. So similarly, to survive the digital detox, you have to identify what content needs to be restricted. It can't be everything. So I would make an elimination list that includes rich media like games, movies, video clips, etc. Email, texts, and books could be continued. Secondly, plan substitutes in advance and plan maybe physical activities, weekend outdoor trips, and plan it with groups and cohorts who are going to support each other, and all of them are trying to do the detox. So that's my thought.
So what does all this mean to an influencer or marketing manager with a regular brand?
So firstly, there is a perceptual reality, which is the here and the now, and for that you need to operationally attend to the rules that are set for you by the environment and the market. So every new app, software, tool is important for scrutiny. But above that, there is a bigger picture, which is the empirical reality, and you need to know the sustainability of your efforts in the medium or the long term, how the market will disrupt, how the rules will change, because beyond your job, you also need a career to plan your future. And one thing this environment guarantees you is constant disruption.
So these perspectives have been very enlightening. Is there any, as a marketer, that you would recommend consumers exercise restraint with this field?
Well, it opens an interesting door, but what I am saying is that a market grows only when consumers are free to choose. When they are manipulated into obedience or compulsions, or they are zombified, they cannot be aroused or excited. As we all know, there is a complete loss of serendipity. People are always expecting to see what they're seeing. And it's called relevance. But to have a free market, you need to free the consumers from this reign of predictability. And freedom can be viewed as autonomy, which is one's ability to self-regulate.
Awesome. Well, that was very, very deep, and I'm glad that we had this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, as an artist, I wasn't my desire to be figuring out algorithms, but here we are.
All right.
All right, bye.
Thank you for
everyone.
your time.
Thanks.